understand from Gagan on how things progressively will change for Indiabulls Finance now that there has been a big change in terms of the ownership structure. Gagan, really appreciate your time. Thank you for joining us. Lots and lots of questions which I'm sure our viewers and your shareholders would like to understand. First, let's understand the very basic. With Sameer's exit, what changes?
So, hi Nikun, good morning. Sameer's exit is, I think, being misunderstood. He continues to remain a long-term shareholder. He still holds about 9.8% of the company, and in that sense is a long-term shareholder. He's even written to the stakeholders saying that he has no intention to, sort of sell these shares. We started a institutionalization process 2 years ago. This was a very important, vital step for that institutionalization to move on, for us to be able to draw a very strong line between ownership and management. Financial institutions, as they mature, have to draw that line in order to have the right kind of perception around governance and everything else. So this is a step towards that direction. It started with a change at the chairman level, where Sameer stepped down and Mr. Mundra, the former deputy governor, took over as the chairman of the company. There was a second minor step of reconstitution of all the board subcommittees. This is a third major step where he's gone below 10%, so that in due course of time, once all the requisite approvals are in place, then the process of depromoterization can start. We're very fortunate that we have a couple of investors who've come into this purchase who have a long-term relationship with Indiabulls, and therefore we hope that we can continue with our relationship with them. And as in the past, slowly we've scaled up the relationship. In this case also, we are able to scale up. The end game for us is really to make this a professionally run, board-governed financial institution. And it will have significant financial investors. Sameer would be one of them. And there would be other financial institutions which would continue to remain financial investors.
So Gagan, let me ask you a direct question and pardon my curiosity. What will be your role at Indiabulls? Because you are the face of Indiabulls Finance. You have been instrumental in its growth. That's part one of my question. Part two, the 10% stake which Sameer sold yesterday, has it gone to only financial investors, or there are going to be investors who now will get a seat at the board in lieu of the stake what they bought yesterday?
So I have been the CEO of the NBFC ever since its inception, and I intend to remain the CEO of the NBFC. Obviously, it's subject to board and regulators approval, but there is no intention of any change in the management. Despite COVID, as well as the crisis at NBFC, and we faced the brunt of the crisis, the senior management of the company has stuck together. And we continue to hope that the senior management would only be more committed and empowered as we move ahead. As far as the investors, we are in the process of convening an EGM subject to the board's approval to propose that the significant financial investors, some of whom have come yesterday, and others are offered a board seat if they so choose to. I would expect at least one or two of the investors to have a board seat very shortly.
Mr. Banga, good morning. This is Nayantara. Thanks so much for giving us this interview. So you've told us what you're going to do as CEO. Now, what we've seen earlier also is the demerger of Dhani Services from the Indiabulls Group. In the letter that has been shared with the stock exchanges, Mr. Gehlaut has also talked about how he's going to focus on that as the CEO. But he's also going to be a long-term shareholder, as you rightly said, at Indiabulls Housing Finance. And he's also, anyway, still a small shareholder in Indiabulls Real Estate. How should we see all of this together? Because Dhani is also, in a sense, in fintech, it's doing tech-enabled financial transactions.
So just to clarify, as I understand, I'm not exactly on top of each number, but Sameer ceases to be a shareholder of Indiabulls Real Estate. That process of merging Indiabulls Real Estate with the Embassy Group, backed by Blackstone, that process has progressed extremely well. And I think Indiabulls Real Estate is at the last stage with NCLT for the approval of the merger process. My timeline expectation for that is the fourth quarter of the financial year. And if that is the case, then the company's name will also change. And Sameer is anyways not a shareholder there anymore. He has been, over the last 5 years, been focusing his executive energies on Dhani, which he will continue to do. Dhani and Indiabulls Housing are in a completely different space. Indiabulls Housing is a mortgage lender. Within the mortgage lending space, it is our endeavor to become a significant originator rather than a large balance sheet. And to that extent, our co-lending model, which is scaling up month on month very, very beautifully, that would be the significant way forward. With some of the investors who've come in who also have large real estate exposures in India, the intention is also to start a co-lending model on the wholesale side via an AIF structure. And that's something that we hope to operationalize in the first quarter. That should have a significant, add to a significant profit contributor to the company's bottom line. The business of Dhani is a small buy now, pay later product, which is hinging on then moving and providing subscription-based medicine-related services, be it pharma delivery, be it telemedicine and all of that. That's the model. So these are very significantly different products. Even in the small NBFC that they run, the ticket sizes would be sub 20,000 rupees. Here, the smallest loan that we do is 20 lakhs and it is secured. We don't do unsecured lending. So it's a completely different space, no conflict of interest, completely different model. And that's why we feel that Indiabulls Housing will will have its own path, whereas Dhani will have its own very significantly different path.
So let's talk about that, as Indiabulls Housing Finance wants to be professionally managed, and it is going to be, as you have talked about. You're going to be the face of that. You're going to remain as CEO. The letter to the shareholders and the board is very, very clear on that. So talk to us, Mr. Banga, going forward. What is it that we can expect as you start this new chapter?
The big strategic point is at a board level, one would like to see significant institutional participation. So that's something that one is working towards with various financial institutions, and that's something that you will continue to hear more about. It's an endeavor, and we are, as we speak, over 50% owned by institutions. And they will continue to have an even larger and larger role to play in the governance of the company. At an operating level, our retail co-lending model with 6 banks and 1 housing finance company has started to scale up. We had given a guidance that this quarter we will do 1,000 crores of co-lending. We are well on track to exceed that number in quarter 3. We've also given a guidance that by quarter 1 fiscal 23, we should have a operating co-lending model on the wholesale side, so that we can go back and start providing construction finance to home builders, etc. In partnership though with a global credit fund. That is also well on track. We are as well on track to build a co-lending platform for the commercial real estate side to buildings which are nearly completed and can start rent yielding. Both of these platforms should be up and running in the first quarter of fiscal 23. And as I've indicated, the shrinkage that we have witnessed, which we had to do to make the organization more stable, should end within fiscal 22. Fiscal 23 onwards, we should see profit and book compounding at north of 15%. By book, I mean the assets under management and not the balance sheet. in the foreseeable future, we expect the balance sheet to be where it is right now.
Okay, that's important guidance there that you're giving us. And Mr. Banga, my question to you before I hand over to Aisha, one question. The Indiabulls Group's ambition when it had a banking license, which didn't work out, 2 attempts, one of the big attempts, and after that is when we've seen depromoterization at the group level. Now, given the new restructuring, and if I could call it the corporate overhaul and this, that, and the other, where does that stand with Indiabulls Housing Finance? Will we see a fintech play, a large digitization play, any kind of a payment bank license?
So we already are significantly ahead of our peers as far as digitization is concerned. Back in 2016 itself, we had launched the world's first fully digital home loan solution, which has allowed along the way to keep our costs low, our distribution very light, and is one of the most significant contributors to the fact that we've actually been able to scale up co-lending, even though uh, most stakeholders were disbelieving that would happen. Now, in that background, I think we are fairly well set as far as the operationalization of whatever we are doing is concerned. We would like to stay focused to become a large originator of loans, to focus on our assets under management. Banking at this point in time is not on our radar. I think there's a very large opportunity in the mortgage industry. The macro for the mortgage world has changed after 8 to 9 years. So I would imagine that we would want to remain focused on what we are rather than trying to do everything. In a corporate life cycle, there are various paths. The paths that we followed was to start from a brokerage to become an NBFC and then use the NBFC as a core platform to get into real estate development, fintech, whatnot. And now we are consolidating back to just being an NBFC. We would like to give ourselves time for this consolidation to play through, for the profitability compounding to come back. We've compounded profits for shareholders for 10 good years, delivered over 11,000 crores of dividends. I would like to see that journey becoming more predictable for shareholders, return on equity returning to 15% by fiscal 24 before diverting the organization's energies to anything else.
Sure. Gagan, what I want to know is, like Indiabulls Housing, wherein Sameer Gehlaut still has a residual 9.8% stake, what about Indiabulls Realty? Have promoters fully exited via bulk deals, or is there still some stake left?
To the best of my knowledge, they're fully exited. They fully exited Indiabulls Real Estate, and which is why it was very important for Sameer to place his stance on record as to what his residual stake at Indiabulls Housing would be. Indiabulls Real Estate was non-core in his financial investment portfolio. Indiabulls Housing remains core, which is why he said that he has no intention of selling it at this point in time.
Essentially is moving, which is what eventually shareholders would like to see. I look at assets under management. I have the data. In FY17, it was almost at 1 lakh crore. It went to 1.2, 1.3. Now it's back to sub 1 lakh crore. How do you see the AUM moving now?
Nikunj, what we've indicated is that fiscal 23 onwards, where we end in fiscal 22, which my expectation is that we will end in the ballpark of somewhere between 70 to 75,000 crores at the end of fiscal 22. We should be growing that, at least the AUM, at least 15 to 20% on an annualized basis. So by fiscal 23 end, we should be at 90,000 crores, and by fiscal 24, we should go back again past a lakh crore, by which time we will also be able to grow our NII to a level that we hit a return on equity of 15%.
In FY23, what we're trying to understand is that what is that tipping point where growth will be strong but profit will be higher than the AUM growth?
The tipping point is basically the scale up of the retail disbursals. So at this point in time, we are doing about 1,000 crores on a monthly basis of retail disbursals in a ratio which is two-thirds on our balance sheet and one-third on via co-lending. That is the optimum mix, two-thirds and one-third. So we just have to scale up this 1,000 to 2,000 crores, which we hope that for most of next year, every month we should be doing that, which is why for next year, the disbursal target that we've kept is 30,000 crores, of which 20,000 will be on our balance sheet and 10,000 will be via co-lending. As we do that, the AUM starts growing ahead of the repayments. We receive roughly 1,000 crores of repayments a month, and we will be able to, on a net basis, grow the AUM by the numbers that I have indicated.
And just to wrap it up, Gagan, while the deal is self-explanatory, let's clear the air. There were also all kind of buzz rumors that there is going to be some kind of an investment within the wholesale book of Indiabulls Finance. Uh, I know the deal is self-explanatory, but perhaps it would be nice if you say that there is no proposals that you want to address the wholesale book by separating it.
We will not be separating the wholesale book. We have been doing transactions around the wholesale book. As management, it is always good to have a liquidity backup. We do have an in-principle arrangement where around the wholesale book, we have a liquidity line of up to 10,000 crores, which is available. We will see how the liquidity requirements of the company progress. We will certainly partially tap into this liquidity line, which is being provided to us by one of these global funds, but that should only be partial. The rest of the reduction in the wholesale book should happen in normal course as the collections in the escrow accounts improve. So the good thing which has happened out of all of this is that we have a partner who's already partnered with us in other group companies. We have comfort, and even at Indiabulls Housing, the intention is to have a multifaceted partnership rather than just being a shareholder.
To have you on the show, Gagan. Thank you for patiently answering all our queries. And would take a leap from your answer that every company, every corporate goes through a cycle, and just hoping that the worst of things are behind us and the new cycle for you and your group companies has started. Good luck for
Thank you.
2022, and thank you for joining us.